Yeah, these days, man, if I had a dollar every time I hear a Christian say that, that Christianity is not supposed to be political or Christians shouldn't be involved in government or this or that, it sounds like the work that you're doing is what I wish a lot of Christians would read and study and understand.
Yeah.
Why do you think it is that? When do you think that really became a significant, dominant position with American Christians, that Christianity and politics have nothing to do with one another?
Um, I don't know if there's a I don't know if there's an exact point in time where that where you could say this is it. I think there was kind of a convergence of ideas, where I think eschatology had a lot to do with it. I mean, Schofield Reference Bible, came out in the early 1900s, and it kind of put the kibosh on, we're living in this parenthesis. The kingdom of God is yet future. We really don't have anything to say about the things of this world. I mean, even the Sermon on the Mount isn't applicable, today.
Explain that real quick. The Sermon on the Mount isn't applicable today. They would say it's applicable, but they would just say it's private, the privatized application, right?
Well, remember, the dispensationalist says we're living in a parenthesis.
Explain the parentheses.
Well, the parenthesis. Well, this might take a little time. I'll
That's
try to be
okay.
as quick as possible with this. Dispensationalism teaches that there is a salvific distinction between Israel and the church. The dispensationalists claim that the church arose because Israel rejected Jesus as the promised Messiah, and that
Right.
stopped the prophecy clock of Daniel's 70th week, which was supposedly a 7-year period. That the prophecy clock stopped. And so God quit dealing with Israel, and he started dealing with this new entity called the church. And according to dispensationalism, at Pentecost or sometime after that, the church age began. And right now, according to dispensationalism, we're living within the church age. And so the Sermon on the Mount was supposed to be for kingdom living. Well, according to the dispensationalists, the kingdom doesn't come until after this parenthesis is over, and that's the rapture, where God takes the church off the earth.
Right.
And then there's a 7-year period. There's the rise of Antichrist. The Antichrist makes a covenant with Israel. The Antichrist breaks the covenant, the rebuilt temple, animal sacrifices, Armageddon, all hell breaks loose, on and on and on. And then there's a bloodbath. 2/3 of the Jews living in Israel are going to be slaughtered. Billions of people around the world will be killed. That's the dispensational system in a nutshell.
Right. Real quick, do most dispensation? So that's super helpful. Thank you. Do most dispensational individuals, would they hold that the earth, like a literal interpretation of, Peter, when he said the earth will dissolve like snow, when they say new heavens, new earth, do they think God is restoring this earth, or God's just going to completely wipe it out and replace it? Like Jesus is going to rapture his own, take us to heaven, which is some separate place from earth, and then we're going to eventually return back to a whole separate planet that he's going to create to replace this earth. Is that right?
The dispensationalists teach that this rapture of the church takes place, and then there's a 7-year period where Antichrist kind of reigns. Jesus returns. So this rapture is secret. You don't see Jesus. All the Christians are taken off the earth.
Right.
Then after that 7-year period, when Jesus returns, he then returns and sets up his kingdom on earth, and that's Revelation chapter 20. Although Revelation chapter 20 doesn't say any of that. And there's nothing in Revelation 20 that says Jesus is going to reign on the earth and rule from Jerusalem. And they have to have a rebuilt temple and all that. Now, at the end of that 1,000 years, that's when the new heavens and the new earth start. So 2 Peter 3, according to the dispensationalists, does not happen until after the 1,000 years.
Gotcha.
Now, most all-mills, post-mills, who don't have that 1,000-year literal Jesus reigning on the earth, they believe 2 Peter chapter 3 is a literal fire-breathing catastrophe on the earth and a renovated earth. I don't hold that position. John Owen didn't hold that position. John Brown didn't hold that position. John Lightfoot didn't hold that position. Others didn't either. The 2 Peter 3 is really talking about the elements of the old covenant are tested by fire and burned up. Not that the earth itself is burned up, but that old covenant order is burned up.
Right.
Different views based upon your eschatological position.
That's helpful, because I was telling you before we started recording, I was in San Diego. Well, I didn't tell you San Diego, but I was in San Diego, California. I told you California. And San Diego is close proximity to Westminster Escondido, and Westminster Escondido, even John Frame, wrote kind of his critique of the Escondido theology. He named the book The Escondido Theology, and primarily critiquing their Two-Kingdom theology.
I think I wrote a foreword or an introduction.
Oh, did you? Okay, and so anyway, Van Druden would be, for a lot of guys, the gold standard there, but Horton, Michael Horton and multiple other guys would adhere to that strict Two-Kingdom theology, where basically Druden, from what I've understood, and so I had interaction with, a lot of my pastor friends were Presbyterian, but a lot of them came out of Escondido, Westminster Escondido, and so they, were pretty staunchly Two-Kingdom, and from what I heard from them, basically what was taught at the school was that that the only thing that is going to enter into the new heavens and new earth is, the only physical thing is our physical resurrected bodies, because you have to hold to that without being just a full-blown heretic. So you've got to say that, you've got to believe in the resurrection and a literal bodily resurrection, but everything else, they really believed everything would be burnt up, would be complete. It wasn't going to be restored. So like text where it says, that even creation itself is groaning with eager expectations for the sons of God to be revealed. Druden and those guys would say that, that the creation is groaning with eager expectations to give way to the sons of God, to basically like a mercy killing. It wants to die so that this new thing can happen.
And that's a pretty popular position among a lot of even post-mill guys.
Okay.
I personally believe we need almost a complete reassessment of eschatology, because if you look at the creeds, you look at the Nicene Creed, and you look at the Apostles' Creed. One of them says the resurrection of the body, the other one says the resurrection of the dead. One says he descended into hell. Right. Nicene Creed says baptism for the remission of sins. And so there are a number of things, even in those confessional statements, and we don't even know those creedal statements. We don't even know who wrote the Apostles' Creed. But throughout all these creedal statements and even confessional statements, Baptist confessions, Westminster Confession, whatever the case might be, there's very little on eschatology. Most of the stuff on eschatology, the Westminster Confession of Faith, of course, made a direct statement in its original version that the Pope was the Antichrist. That was a popular view in the among the reformers. Right. And
yeah, the 1689 says that too, which I'm just happy to read that as the Pope is an Antichrist. To which I would say yes and amen. So
that to me is in biblical terms, that doesn't fit.
So you would say that there's a singular Antichrist? Is that what you're hinting at?
I was raised Roman Catholic, and we had to memorize the Apostles' Creed. So if you look at the Apostles' Creed, a Protestant who believes in the Apostles' Creed, Roman Catholics believe in the Apostles' Creed.
Yes.
Jesus is the Son of God. God is triune. All of that was within the Roman Catholic Church. The difference is that in biblical terms, an antichrist is someone who denies that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. That is, an antichrist is someone who denies the Father and the Son. Well, Roman Catholics don't deny the Father and the Son.
Right.
So the biblical definition of an antichrist, I'm talking about biblical definition.
Mm-hmm. 1 John,
is most likely, and First John chapter 2, verse 18, John says, look, there's not just one antichrist, there's many antichrists.
Right.
We're living in the last hour, and this is evidence. The evidence for that is there are many antichrists. So who are these antichrists who denied that Jesus Christ had come in the flesh and denied the Father and the Son? So that would be apostate Judaism. It's not Roman Catholicism. Here, I think the reformers got this wrong. That's why I think there are a lot of guys who are historicists. They believe the Roman Catholic Church is the end time Antichrist. Not in terms of what the Bible has to say and define it. I've seen guys write books on the Antichrist and just skip over 1 John chapter 2, verse 18, 1 John 2, 22, 1 John 4, 1 and 2, 2 John 7. And they never actually defined Antichrist.
Right.
And that there were many of them. So
no, that's a fair. I appreciate that. That's a really fair assessment. And I've never thought that the Roman Catholic Church or the Pope is the Antichrist or the final Antichrist, but I have categorized the Pope as an Antichrist, which is what Reformed Baptist guys did, what a lot of Presbyterian guys did. But the point you're making in saying that, if we want to have a biblical definition of the Antichrist is, because you're right, John absolutely, he explicitly says that in chapter 2, the one who is the Antichrist, but the one who denies that Jesus has come in the flesh, which is, and I even wrote a book on 1 John, and I remember when I was dealing with that text saying that, because saying that Jesus came in the flesh includes a lot. If we flesh out that statement, it says that, for one, it says that Christ is eternal. He came in the flesh. He came from somewhere, right? That he was somewhere else. And so he, it says that he didn't always have flesh. So what did he have before that? He was a most pure spirit with God the Father, eternally begotten, not made, and he comes in the flesh. And so you're right, by that standard, and that is what John clearly says, by that standard, Catholics would not fall into the category of
So now this does not
I appreciate
at all
that.
absolve the Roman Catholic Church of all of its many
Right, of
errors.
course. Yeah.
They may be Antichrist but in terms of the Bible, you can't really make that statement. But the papacy, the idea of speaking ex cathedra, Virgin Mary and perpetual virginity, the assumption of Mary, praying to Mary,
Immaculate Conception,
all that kind of stuff. I mean, Roman Catholic Church has enough doctrinal problems.
We don't have to create extra ones. Yeah, no, that's fair. Thanks. I appreciate that. So all that being said,
by the way,
go ahead.
It's not that Kirk Cameron, the movie isn't Unstoppable. He did another one. It's called Monumental. Okay. That's the one that he did on America's Christian heritage based upon this monument that is up in Massachusetts, which overlooks the harbor. A gigantic, if you haven't seen it, it's really worth watching. It's called Monumental. Kirk Cameron and Marshall Foster are involved in that. And Darren Doan actually was the one who kind of fixed that particular film. He's not giving any credit for it in the film itself, but Darren Doan was the one that actually put that all together and really made it viewable. But anyway, that's cool. a little sidetrack.
That's great. Wait, real quick before you go, do me a favor. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the bell so you'll be notified with all our new content as it comes out on a daily basis. And if you're willing to support this ministry, you can do so by going to rightresponseministries.com/donate. Thanks so much. God bless.